Okay, so welcome and thank you for coming. Thank you for catching the replay. I always like to pull a card before I start. I work with the Akashic Records. Oh, you can't see that. And today's card is Luminous. And Luminous is about healing and restoration of the light body. So he has the power to awaken you to your divinity and restores the grid of light that brings together your physical, your emotional, your mental and spiritual being. So he allows you to expand out, and you can see that from the card, in those different bodies, although we have 5 bodies according to the yogis. So that's a really nice card for today, and I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. So what is really in your way? So I'm Emma Greenslade, and what I'm going to share with you tonight is a simple and unique method that not only builds the foundations for a life you love, but also allows you to change your sabotaging thoughts and feelings whilst fully aligning to your own true choice. And so as we go through, you'll learn what a true choice is. But as adoptees, we've believed that we need fixing. We believe what happened to us in the past has paved the way for our future, and we need to stay, and we stay in this negativity. And if you're here today, you're in the right place, because you're going to be unshackled, untethered, unchained, and unapologetic. And it really is time for you to free yourself so you can align to your success. So my goal is to show you the science and the techniques that you must understand to change your attraction point. And tonight we're talking about the 4 patterns that keep you stuck, the 6 sabotaging behaviours that keep you stuck, and the 7 mistakes to change so you can consciously create your life. And if we have time, we'll talk about the 5 steps to do that. So we have the ability to recode our brain in a matter of minutes. And you may or may not have heard about NLP, EFT, hypnosis, meditation. And whilst all these modalities are absolutely awesome, from my experience, I know that they can take an absolute age, particularly if you're doing it on your own. And let's face it, we live in this fast-paced world, and we want everything now. And that is what this work enables you to do. So maybe you've been told your thoughts create your reality, and to some extent that's true, but what happens, we are a series of habits. So if you think about brushing your teeth, you know, when you were a baby, I'm sure it was a bit clunky and funky, and you won't remember that. But you might remember learning to ride a bicycle and falling off. But I'm sure that you mastered riding a bicycle, and even if you still haven't ridden one for 20 years, you will be able to get on that bicycle and ride it like a pro. And that is because the body remembers the habits that you create. And so what's happened is your trauma of being taken away from your adopted family has created a big void and an emotion, and that emotion has become a habit. That identity of being adopted is now your habit. So perhaps you remember being teased at school about being adopted. I know that I certainly was, and that experience was lodged into the body. And so every time you wanted to do something, you were brought back to being adopted, of not feeling good enough or feeling less than, and having all these other low vibe feelings of shame and guilt and grief and apathy and anger. I mean, anger is actually a higher vibration than shame. But these low vibe feelings are your destructive habits, and they've been created from that painful emotion of being taken away from your birth family. But you wouldn't have understood that when you were growing up, and your lizard brain, the brain that keeps you, the part of you that keeps you in survival, keeps bringing you back to surviving and not thriving. And this causes many health issues. And for myself as well, I've cured autoimmune disorders. And when I've looked into it deeper, I found that it was from this trauma that was kept in place. So now, you know, your thoughts create your habits, and your habits create your reality. You're going to be able to learn how to align your habits and your thoughts to your true choices. But how do we eliminate negative habits that are preventing us from having the life we desire? So epigenetics is the study of behaviours and environment, and can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. So being adopted, we have this physical body of our birth family, which is our genes, and essentially we wouldn't have looked like perhaps our adopted parents, and I know that I certainly didn't. And I was always wondering what my birth family would look like. But what I learned in my adoptive family was my behaviours and environment definitely conditioned me whilst I was growing up. You know, the teachers, the peer group, the parents, grandparents, and the society around me. Although there are some behaviours that definitely, since I've met my adoptive family, I've linked to them. So if you're waking up feeling trapped in your past and stressed about your future, then you may be suffering from holding on to what I call your adoptee identity. And imagine making choices because you love them rather than because that's what people expect of you. The milestone approach works on any trauma, any limitation, and any generational pattern. And the strategy employed within that approach which I'm going to be sharing with you in this video, is a simple way of turning your life from your current reality into your desired reality, simply and effectively. And when you understand and utilize this method, you'll no longer be triggered by negative emotions that are currently keeping you stuck. And you'll have the self-belief and self-acceptance and true belonging that I know that you're craving. You'll no longer need to go rooting around in the past, trying to make sense of why you're stuck, why you feel uncomfortable, and constantly worrying what other people think of you, what other people's judgments are. And you'll no longer need to be feeling rejected, abandoned, or insignificant. So you will step forwards with ease and harmony into your future, and the future that you curate from your true choices. Because choice, it's all about choosing. And when you make a choice, you align to making that happen. So it's the same method that I've used to create my own self-love, self-acceptance, and true belonging. So I'm Emma Greenslade. I'm the creator of Conscious Adoptee Incubator, and I'm honoured to be guiding other adoptees from around the world to transform their life by letting go of the past so they can step forwards into their future. And we do that by activating powerful healing and manifesting and transformation And I've helped hundreds release limitations and activate them to meet their true self and step into their soul purpose. And I do this with the milestone method of loving yourself from the inside out. And I just want to tell you a quick story about myself, because I didn't love myself from the inside out. I kind of, I had this beautiful life on the outside. I had a multi-million-pound business. I had a six-figure salary. I had all the trappings of success. I was living in the tropics, and I had a maid, a housekeeper, a chef, a nanny. And, you know, I looked like this, it looked idyllic, but actually inside I was just crumbling. And one day we'd just come back from a trip to the UK. I brought my two children over here. One was just turning 1 and she was teething. If you know anything about babies, they make a lot of noise when they're teething and you don't get a lot of sleep. And I spent 5 weeks in the UK with a teething baby and I was absolutely exhausted. And I'd gone out to meet my then husband and for dinner. But what happened during the day, me and the baby had gone out for a drive, and when we came back into the compound, she was asleep in the car. So I called out, "Email, go and watch the baby," because I needed to go and have a bathroom break. And I thought, I'll just leave her sleeping for a little bit longer before I go and get her. And foolishly, I fell asleep. This was a big mistake, because when I got out there to the car, and I'm laughing because I'm a bit nervous about telling you, the baby her cheeks were red, her face, they were wet. She had been sobbing, and the air conditioning was on. She was freezing cold. I mean, I felt so bad. I brought her in and I beat myself up for the rest of the afternoon. That evening, I went out with my husband and I made the second mistake of the day, which was telling him. Now, my ex-husband is a narcissist and he was emotionally abusive. And this particular day, we were sitting in a Chinese restaurant and he was awful to me. I didn't eat any food and I ended up looking like the baby with red cheeks and wet cheeks from where I was crying, and tears were just rolling down my face. And he didn't let go of being so horrible. How could I have been such a bad mother? I mean, he wasn't telling me anything that I didn't really know myself. Finally, we left the restaurant and we were driving home, and we were driving across the bridge to take us back towards our house. And we had this high up car. And as we're going across the bridge, I thought how easy it would be to wind down the window, get my feet up on the chair, unclip the seat belt and launch myself through the window and over into the river below. That didn't happen. What did happen was that was my reset. It was my dark night of the soul, or my dark bridge, well, my dark night of the bridge. And what happened was I then realized how unhappy I was and how I needed to change the inside and my thoughts and my own reality and my habits. And I realized that my health was actually my wealth. And so my purpose now is to help other adoptees never have to go through what I went through, because it was such a massive wake-up call. And in those dark moments, I was able to find my true identity, but more importantly, release my adoptee identity. Now, I would like to say it happened really quickly. It didn't at all. Times got worse. But over the course of the past 10 years, my personal development, my self-growth is what I've been working towards now, every day, to be able to now put this presentation and help other adoptees. Because I had created that life of having just everything perfect on the outside, but feeling trapped inside. And I created that as an adoptee. So I learned how to shift out of living in the drama and trauma, because problem solving was what had given me purpose. And I stopped living this life of problem solving and living in the drama and trauma, and said, no, I don't want to do that anymore. But what I don't want to do, what I don't want to have to happen to you guys, is that it takes you so long as it took me. So it's time to let go, drop the adoptee identity and let go of the past. Because I realized everything that stops us is actually unconscious, and the unconscious is about 95% of us, and the conscious is 5%. And we spend all this time in our head thinking and sabotaging ourselves, living this frustration and struggle and anger and poor health and lack and scarcity and unhappy and depressed and anxious. Oh my gosh, there's so many things. Grief, shame, you can name whatever it is and definitely link it to your adoption. And all we want is harmony and love and freedom and safety, health and vitality, happiness and connection. But what you have to do is be it before you see it. And this is the missing piece within personal development. They all say you have to see it before you be it. Sorry. Yeah, they say you have to see it before you be it, but actually you have to be it. You have to be living as you want to be before it will come into fruition. So we need to start living from the place of love, and love is the biggest thing, because we've lost that deep loving connection when we were uprooted and taken from our birth family. And what I learned is that I was out of emotional alignment with what I really, really wanted. Everything that was stopping me was in the unconscious. But what was running the show was my conscious. And in my identity pulled me back. And every time I would have a little bit of success, my sabotaging patterns kicked in. I would manifest, I manifested a multi-million-pound business, but actually I also lost it. I lost my business, my home, my marriage in a very, very short space of time. But as adoptees, we're all master manifestors. We managed to find a family that wanted us, that we manifested that. And I'll just take a moment to how I believe what happens is we are all reincarnated. We're all a soul having a human experience, and we have the same soul but just have different bodies. And so when this body dies and passes over, we are in what we call in-between lives. And it's at that point, that in-between lives, that we all sit around and talk with the elders and discuss what's going to happen next, and whether we choose route A or route B. Are we going to open that route A, door A, or door B? And that is just a choice that we make, because we are living our divine assignments. So we chose to come back as adopted people, as people that weren't living with their birth family. We chose this life. This is our divine assignment. And when you know that, things become a little bit easier, I hope, because that will allow you to understand that you have a choice to take a line in the sand and step over it and say no more. I've left that behind. We're all adults now. And what happened to us is traumatic, definitely. But we don't have to keep living from that place in this current lifetime. So this is our current reality, is my life sucks. It's not, I'm not enough. I live in scarcity. I'm not worthy. I need to keep fixing myself. I need to keep going to the therapist. I need to keep doing this training or that training, or I must beat myself up. And I'm going to just use the diet scenario as the example. So you're in today this current reality of wanting to change your body. You want to go on a diet. You want to lose some weight to be able to show off on the beach in the holidays, on the summer holiday. And so you decide to get rid of all your food, the poor choices of food that you've got in the cupboard. And so on Monday, you're all ready to set forward on your new diet. And so Monday happens, really good, you're really determined and motivated. Tuesday, you're great. Wednesday, Thursday, you wake up late, you haven't prepared your food, you go to work, somebody cuts you off on the roundabout, you have a bit of a thing with the boss. You decide, I'll just have that chocolate bar. Your identity has already started sabotaging you. And that your identity of being overweight has sabotaged you from getting where you want. Thursday evening comes, you decide to have a little drink, an alcoholic drink. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you think, oh, well, I've already blown my diet. I'll start again on Monday. And so you go in what we call an oscillation. You go forwards with all this gung-ho of what you're going to achieve, because once you have this perfect body, it will all be better. You're going to have the relationship that you want. You're going to meet the love of your life. You're going to feel abundant. You're going to feel happy. Your health obviously is going to be improved. But your ego has to die. Your ego is the thing that's keeping you safe. And change for the ego is just not safe. So your identity is in conflict with the desired reality. Now, what happens is the identity doesn't want to die. And the conclusion is you need to fix yourself. You need to work harder. You must work harder. Got to be really motivated. But you're wrong, because we are all perfect just the way we are. And instead of fixing yourself, you need to have no resistance to having your perfect life. So you must be in the future feeling now, in the feeling of having that perfect body right now. And as a person that chooses health and vitality, what choice do you make when it comes to Thursday, when you wake up late and the boss gives you a hard time? Because when you're truly satisfied with everything that you have now, you will just want more of the same. So the 6 sabotaging patterns that are keeping everything in place is: I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm insignificant, invisible, I'm not capable, I'm not perfect. And there's one missing, is I don't belong. How many of you have felt I don't belong? And what's really in your way? And which of these do you recognize in yourself, or do you recognize all of them? And we can do a little test, if you like, of how we sabotage ourselves. I'm going to stop sharing and show you. Why would I do that? So I do a lot of muscle testing. That's how I do a lot of my work. And I can teach you how to do some muscle testing yourself. Would you like that? Yeah, cool. Okay, so I invite you to stand up. Now you're not going to be able to see my body, sorry, my head, but you can definitely see my body. And you don't need to stand to the side, but I'm going to stand to the side to give you the example. So you're going to stand with your feet hip width apart, and just take a little bend in your knees. And we're just going to understand which is yes and which is no for us, for our bodies. And so we ask our name because we know our name. And so I'm going to say, my name is Emma Greenslade. And you can see that I go forwards. And then I'm going to get the no answer, which is my name is Donald Trump. And you can see that I go backwards. So we can also test a little bit more, and I'm going to say, I like baked beans. You might not know what baked beans are. I go backwards. Or we can say, I like chocolate. And I go forwards. So with that in mind, if you'd like to get your yes and no answers, and then, so I can't see you, but I'm going to share the screen again, because then you can test these particular sabotaging patterns of I am not worthy, I'm not good enough. And whether you get a yes or no answer will tell you which are your sabotaging patterns. And don't be surprised if you get them all.
I'm sorry, do you want me to do them now?
I don't have to, no. You might not need to, seeing as you're not adopted.
No, but I do find everything that you said so far very engaging. It's very relevant, especially for people who are adopted. Speaking from experience of knowing people, it gives me their perspective and in a way how to be there more for them in times that they would need it, and I'm not aware of it.
Ah, that's lovely. I really, really think you're a very nice person to spend the time to get to know how other people feel.
Thank you. Well, to those really just close to me, I want to make sure that everything is okay with everything that's been going on the past few years. It's always good to check up on people, check to see how they're doing, and just making sure that life has been good to them at the very least.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's really important. Well, if you'd like to share this with them, and you'll get, if you'd like to receive the recording, we'll send it on to you and you can forward it on to them.
All right.
If you feel that would be beneficial to them, or
Yes.
at least ask them if they'd like to watch it.
All right.
So the 4 patterns that keep us stuck, that keep us in, that get in our way, is that we hold on to the past, we overthink, and we overthink because we are fearful, and the emotions that adopted people suffer with keep them fearful of what's going to happen next. And grief and fear are the biggest hazards. Spend a lot of time talking, but not much doing. You know, we want to be walking our talk rather than talking our walk. And then we have this pattern of if, then, when, I. So for the example with the diet, when I lose weight, I can have the relationship of my dreams. If I lose weight, then I'll be happy. No, we need to start aligning the mindset and creating the reality and believing anything is possible. Absolutely anything. We have limitless choices. And if we think about the iPhone, 20 years ago, the iPhone didn't exist. We had bricks. And, you know, this machine runs our life these days. And it wasn't until somebody else created, that ran the 4-minute mile, that other people were able to believe that they could do it. So it's only just having somebody else show you that something else is possible for you to understand anything is possible. Nothing is impossible. And so why don't we have exactly what we want? Because we spend all our time in our head. And we sit in this limitation because we've never been taught to consciously create. We were never taught that at school. We were told to be good boys and good girls. And if we do what we're told to, then we'll be good enough. We'll get that praise. And that is a childhood thing that we need to just let go of and start actively and consciously believing that what we desire, we can have. And so instead of fixing yourself, instead of spending hours in the therapist's chair, you need to have no resistance to having what it is you want. And that's the beauty of this work, is you don't need to spend hours in the therapist's chair. You know, I've seen people celebrate 100 hours and 500 hours of therapy sessions. No, I don't believe this is necessary anymore. But you cannot grow an abundance forest from a scarcity seed. And at the moment, my darlings, I know that this scarcity seed is pretty rampant. You will never see it until you be it. And what happens is all this scarcity, it's like these boulders, all these limitations are like these boulders that you see on this ocean. And what happens when we do a recode, we go pa, 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 we do it from all the boulders and get them out of the way, because the energy takes the path of least resistance. But we need to create the right structure, because you cannot create success from the same structure that's brought you to this current reality. We have to change how we move forwards. And that definitely is not rummaging around in the past. So I looked into this, and the beliefs and the feelings are programs that we've picked up through conditioning, environment, generational patterns. We might have a pattern that actually goes back to AD, before Christ was born. If you know, for millennia. I've had past life situations where it's been 8th century that I found that patterns have been brought up and brought into this lifetime through ancestral behavior. And we can change all things by epigenetics, because neuroscience tells us that we can do that. And why is this important? Because we must clear our timelines. And when we clear our timelines, we clear our children's timelines, future generations' timelines, and also the people around us. It's super powerful stuff. We rewire the brain and we recode from a super conscious level. And I'll tell you more about super conscious in a moment, because that might be a term that you've never heard before. So Gary Flint, he talks about how to rewire the brain in an instant. And he also talks about these 3 memories. So one is self-conscious. That's us, our thinking, which begins around about age 7. And it's about thought, and overthinking, and that working hard and kind of beating ourselves up if things don't go right, and that all that stuff that we think about, and the endless chatter. And we've got the unconscious. This is the part that you can retrain through suggestions, through the recode. Like it says here, brushing your teeth with the opposite hand. Have you ever tried to do that? I mean, it's really, if you haven't got an electric toothbrush, it feels quite weird. And then we have what we call the superconscious, and that is available across all time and space. And in the superconscious, there is no time. It's the quantum field, and it's this innate intelligence that turned you from a sperm and an egg into a cell, into multiple cells, into a heartbeat, into a human. How epic is that? And it holds all the conditioning within the field about patterns. And then we can go further along into the Akashic records, which is like a library of all your different souls. And the superconscious is a field of information all about you. And so when we work in the superconscious, we are able to clear and clean effortlessly, so you can start transforming into and curating this life that you desire. And you can recode any memory that is causing resistance in your field, so you can just be you. The tricky thing is, as an adoptee, is actually learning who you really are. What is your true identity? Because if you're like me, wearing lots of different masks to fit in has become the norm. So we need to start just peeling off those masks so we can find the real you. And then the last thing that I found out is that you need to take the right action. There's no point cleaning and clearing if you don't then take the action necessary to take the step towards the life that you want. And so that was another of the missing pieces. And so to step into the end result in motion and take aligned action is key. You must be truly satisfied with everything you have. And the problem that I've learned is that you've been trying to create this outcome for years and still don't have it because of these sabotaging patterns that keep you stuck, the mistakes of trying to heal the current reality instead of just letting it all go, letting everything that's brought you to this place just dissipate. It's gone, it's happened. You'll never be able to change it. But you can only change from this moment forwards. Mistake number 2 is working on your conscious mind, your thought, your thinking brain, your mind, where in actual fact you need to be working in the unconscious and the superconscious. Mistake number 3 is focusing on new strategies and thinking you don't know enough, thinking that you must fix yourself, thinking you must do the next thing, keeping yourself busy. And mistake number 4, thinking it will change when you achieve that result, i.e. the diet, the health, the wealth, the relationship. No, you must be it before you see it. Your mistake number 5 is being out of emotional alignment with what you actually desire. How many times have you actually realized that you're living somebody else's dream? It's not your desires. And with a lot of my clients, they don't actually know what they want. So that's the first key. What is it that you really, truly, truly want to create for yourself? Thinking that you can't change. That's not true at all. Number 7 is trying to do it on your own, because you can't see your own blind spots. And that's why it took me so long. I had nobody to help me. And I tried lots of different trainings and lots of different coaches, and nobody understood me as an adopted person. And it wasn't until I realized there's nobody out there for me. I'm going to create it myself. So that's why we're here. So we step into this 5-step method to magically manifest anything you desire in any area of your life. And so what is it you would really like to create? And you can put that in the comments if you'd like. What is it you really would like to create? And how would that feel? What would you see around you? Who would be there? What is the feeling that that brings? Is it joy and happiness and lightness and peace? Purpose? So we then need to create this structural tension of getting to it. So what is going on now? How is your life in this moment? And how does that feel? We then step into the emotion of the end result. What is the next action you must take to move from this current reality in what you don't want into what it is you do want, into the how is it going to make you feel from the inside? Forget about everything that's going on in the outside. What is the true belonging and the self-acceptance going to have you feeling? And then we're going to unplug you from this current reality and blast all those boulders out the way. But what is it that stops you from having what it is that you want? What are the judgments that you've currently got about yourself? What's coming up for you? What are your inner conflicts about having that thing? Let's use money as an example. Most people, I mean, everybody's got limiting beliefs about money. Who do you think you are to have all that? How we get taught that money doesn't grow on trees. What comes up when you think about having an abundance of money? And what are your judgments of yourself about it and your inner conflicts? And what are the benefits that come up from having that resistance, because there is a benefit always to keeping yourself small and stuck. And dare I say it, in victim mentality. Keeping yourself small is that you're not going to actually have to do the work. You can blame everybody else. You can blame that it was your birth parents or your adopted parents that gave you this trauma. But how about trying on, just for the moment, for this next 10 seconds, that actually you're responsible and you get to choose how you live your life? That to me feels so expansive and light. Whereas when we're in blame and negativity, it feels heavy. It feels that it's contracting and nothing else is possible. But so let's change it back to the next 10 seconds of choosing and being responsible, so we can be expanding into our true reality. So we need to let go of all that environmental conditioning, those behaviours, the beliefs, the family entanglements, the stories, the emotions, the sabotaging patterns, all those rules. You must do this, you must do that. The identity of being adopted and the feeling of being incomplete. And the next one is you take action. And the action is the biggest piece. And it doesn't have to be some grandiose piece of action. It could just be a small step forwards. I'll go back to the diet. Clear out all that junk that's in your cupboards, the junk food that's not serving you, the processed food that's full of salt and sugar. That could just be that small step that you're doing. And then the next day, okay, I'm going to start looking for a gym, or I'm going to go out for a walk, or I'm going to do a meditation. I'm going to visualize myself being this fit person on the beach. Even just a 15-minute daily meditation practice is going to recondition your brain and body. And so the 6 steps to stay in action are: what do you really want? You notice the pattern that's keeping you stuck and stop it. And you ask, what would the person I'm becoming do right now? How can I be better today than I was yesterday? And jump in and get somebody to support you that has done it before, that understands you. So let me ask you, have you enjoyed the information so far?
I have.
Ah, cool. Thank you. And if you could completely rewire your limits and drop your identity and learn to consciously manifest your best life, what would you create?
Well, personally, I would just love to be able to live a happy and content life, start a family of my own, or even adopt if if it ever came to that, and just be able to enjoy the life that I have
Nice.
and make the most of it.
Yeah, but how do you make the most of it if you're not choosing? That's a very good, for me, that's quite airy fairy. Yeah, make the most of life. That's what we all want to do, but that's not really. If you went to a restaurant and said, I'll have anything, what might you get?
It's true.
So we need to be a little bit more specific. I mean, you create from having a life that you love. So what is it that you would love to do? And we have these 4 choices that are: I choose a life I love. I choose health and vitality. I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life. And I choose choose to live from my true nature and purpose. And so these are really good choices to make to begin with, because you might, as I have alluded to before, a lot of people don't know what they really want. And so just making those 4 choices, or picking one for the day, I choose a life I love. And what would that be? What would you do? So thank you very much. You got any other questions?
No. I would just like to compliment you on how well structured your presentation is. And even if uh, I myself am not an adoptee, it's very prevalent and relevant to everyone. So even if I wasn't, it's something that speaks to me fairly well.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it works for everybody. Because before I was working with adopted people, I worked with people on money, actually, and also on deep trauma. But what happened over the pandemic is I had a lot of people coming to me that were adopted and fostered. And I thought that the universe was nudging me to work with adopted people. But definitely this whole strategy works whether you're adopted or not. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, we're going back to what you said about adopting. I know in the Philippines, there are a lot of orphans.
Yeah. And
Why is that?
Well, there's a lot of other aspects that sort of come into play. So there's majority of the reason is poverty. A lot of parents can't support themselves, much less having another child. And one other thing is because I'm not sure if it's directly related, but sometimes with a large